positive risk really looks at that and says, okay, we acknowledge that there is the possibility of risk, but we also see the benefits to doing that choice, such as connections to the community and improved physical and mental well-being. By viewing risk as positive, aged care teams are able to then support the resident in being able to fulfil their choices. And so what that means is that people then go ahead and they do the job in terms of residential aged care. The resident is supported with their choices because the benefits of that choice really outweigh those risks. Staff tend to function from a perspective of being risk averse, and risk is negative with negative consequences, and so they tend to fear risk rather than accept it as being positive. Negative risk really looks at you've got a choice and you might have, and what are the outcomes of that in terms of what are the negative risk outcomes, and if there are any, that particular choice is then really minimised or eliminated, and the risk is only seen as negative. So they put in risk minimisation strategies and they try to eliminate the risk. So negative risk really sees choice and independence and any risk coming from that as having adverse consequences that really needs to be minimised and controlled. The impact on practice when risk is only seen as negative is that it really does limit those opportunities for choice and independence in people living in care. An example of positive and negative risk would be making a cup of tea. So, for example, a resident doesn't no longer have the strength in their arms to hold a kettle, and they might spill the hot water and burn themselves. So, from a negative risk perspective, the care worker would actually make that cup of tea for the resident, and that idea about involving the resident in any of that activity that involves risk would be minimised. From a positive risk perspective, the resident would be supported to make that cup of tea. So, for example, the care worker would pour the hot water, but the resident would actually, really be in control of that whole tea making process. They might even have conversations with the care worker while making the tea. So positive risk goes beyond recognising those physical possibilities of harm and actually understands the broader positive benefits from doing that activity.
Dignity of risk on Altura Learning.